Thank you, Tom. Reggie Jackson said once that they need a second Hall of Fame for the real Hall of Famers. And to be just surrounded with this distinguished group of inductees, I'm quite sure that Reggie was talking about me as the misfit among this class. In fact, I see some of my old high school teammates here, Jeff Bedell, Craig Cruz, and I know what they're all thinking, that how in the world is a 170 hitting backup catcher with a lousy arm getting enshrined into a sports Hall of Fame? Well, the short answer is this. On the shoulders of a lot of people, and many of whom are in this room, thanks to the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame for what really is a humbling honor, many of the members of this class and previous classes were idols of mine growing up. Bruce Kaczynski not only played against Patrick Ewing at Georgetown for the UConn Huskies, and he not only played with Dr. J in the 76ers, he once stood in my front yard when my brother Brian was fixing his car. I watched Gary Pearson run for 200 yards on Thanksgiving Day before he broke all those records at UMass, and to me, the fact that I had not been blackballed from the hall by one of the inductees, Phil Manarino, whose tomato plants and vegetable garden we destroyed for years playing wiffle ball, diving all around his yard with his son Craig. I appreciate that you have not held that against me. This is a town that's not only spawned a lot of great athletes, great coaches, but great student athletes and great community leaders. And I think it says so much about the kind of families that we were raised in and raised around. One memory that really stays with me growing up here, I used to ride my bike often to Little League practice at McCabe Waters field, and I'd get there early and I would park my bike behind the left field fence at Muzzy Field, and there would be a solitary figure in the late afternoon taking batting practice at Muzzy, and I'd watch him day after day before anyone else was at the park, driving line drives all over the field, left center, right center, day after day, pitch after pitch. His name was Wade Boggs, and he became a Hall of Famer. And in my lifetime in this town, I only saw one other hitter with that drive and discipline and the relentlessness of Boggs. He hit lefty too, and now he's also a Hall of Famer. That's Matt Wilson. I think the greatest job I ever had in this city is not the one that I hold now, but rather it was my summers working parks and recreation at Rockwell Park, which meant this: ping pong and wiffle ball in the mornings, basketball in the afternoons, and then hanging around the pool and the lagoons to try to talk to lifeguards at lunchtime. That job also meant that I got to ride around in the vans to games with the great Mike Giovinazzo. And Coach Giovinazzo was one of the great two-sport coaches I've ever seen. His ability to teach and lead men at the highest level in both baseball and basketball. I think people in Bristol probably suspect this, but I know this, that Mike Giovinazzo could have coached anywhere at any level in this country and been an elite coach. Now, I also spent a lot of those summer days before in high school at Rockwell with the man who'd be my high school baseball coach, Tom Moylan, who was in every respect really a role model, truly a gentleman and a scholar, a great teacher. But there's one story with Coach Moylan that stays with me. It was my senior year at Bristol Central. We were playing a big, listen, if you played at Muzzy Field under the lights, a night game, it was a big game. But we'd meet at the school, we'd get on the bus and literally just ride down the hill to Muzzy. And I remember, now, I was the backup catcher on that team. The starter was Keith Raffanello. Now, to say there was a gulf between Keith Raffanello and me as a catcher would sort of be like trying to compare, like maybe like, you know, a beach weekend at Cedar Lake, or, you know, chartering a private jet and going to Maui. Like that was the difference between us two. But we were on the bus. Keith was late. And I can still see his car pulling, screeching into the parking lot. We were on the bus. He was trying to park his car, and Coach Moylan just turned. He said, and they said, "Hey, Keith's here," and he said, "Let's go." And the bus takes off, and I can still see Keith running through the parking lot, and the bus was gone. And Coach Moylan turns to me and says, "Age, get ready. You're going to play tonight." And I thought, listen, this is like to me it felt like we were 0-2. We were playing a great Plainville team at Muzzy, and Coach had made this great stand. And I look around the bus at my teammates who, you know, I just expected to see them as galvanized as I was. So I was looking for just sort of the enthusiasm I felt about the moment. And I turn, and literally every guy's head is down. And there's sort of this awkward silence, and I don't know who said it. I suspect it was Craig. And a voice comes from behind me on the bus. "Coach, he wasn't that late." So we get to Muzzy, and my first at bat, I actually hit now I remember it to be a hard line drive right back up the middle. Some of my teammates later in years described, they said, no, actually, the second baseman and shortstop almost collided with each other. It was such a slow roller through. And remember, I actually threw a runner out early, and in my mind, I said, I think I just Wally pipped Keith Raffanello. I think his career's done here. I think this is my job now. And then, of course, later in the game, I remember I'm walking to hit. Coach had proved his point, and I hear Coach Moylan say, "Age, get back." And I look, and Keith's got his bat and his helmet, and he's coming to pinch hit. And so, Coach, always appreciated you taking a stand to do the right thing, especially when it benefited me, right? At Bristol Central, Gail Dickow didn't just make me believe that I could be a writer. She told me that I could be better. And she pushed me and inspired me, and she still does. The chance to return to Bristol and work here was only made complete by partnering with Mrs. Dickow and Pete Winiger, the principal at Central, for a program that we're calling the Writing Initiative. And wherever I've gone in this world, whatever I've tried to contribute to my craft, I've carried her passion with me. My dad is here, Ed Wojanowski, and he, among a lot of lessons growing up in our house, two particular have always stayed and I think really impacted me. You work hard and you never cut corners on your job, and you help people. Whether it's family, friends, strangers, you extend a hand and you give of yourself. And those were lessons that were in great abundance in our house growing up. If my mom was here tonight, I know she'd be telling my dad to keep his voice down, the speakers. When she was near the end, a few years ago, we were at Bristol Hospital, and we were together, and we were essentially saying our goodbyes to her. And so my brother and sister and I were standing around her, and one by one, she was kind of leaving each of us with something of a final thought. And as I remember my brother, my sister got something, I remember, pretty profound from her. And then my mom turned to me, the youngest, and said, if you're going to work in TV, you're going to have to do something about losing your hair. And so, Mom, I'm still working on it. I miss you, and I think of you every day. My brother Brian, who's here with his wife Lori, he showed me something really valuable at a very impressionable young age. And it was this, that whatever you aspired to do, you didn't have to wait in life. He was and is an automotive mechanic, and he built an addition onto our garage, and he fixed people's cars as a teenager. And he had a tremendous thirst for knowledge and know-how, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he made it happen, and it was a tremendous lesson for me. My sister Brenda is here. Now, when I was young, I used to think she was a big baseball fan. She'd come to all of my Little League games. But as it turned out, she just liked the guy helping out his father to coach my team. Now, that's turned out to be my brother-in-law, Danny. But Brenda's always been there for me. She's accomplished so much in her own life, built a career and a family, and she's built a bond with so many people who can count on her for anything. Thanks for being here. I love you. The biggest break in my career came as a high school student at Central when I got a job answering phones in the Hartford Courant sports department. The buzz of the newsroom and getting to watch how all the big-time writers at the Courant would carry themselves, would do the job, it was like heaven on earth to me. All I ever wanted to be was a sports writer. And eventually they would let me go out and cover a high school football game, and you'd go out in the pouring rain, you'd write your story in a little press box where they would turn the lights on you, turn the lights out on you before you were done, and maybe the night would end with you at like a 7-Eleven payphone trying to dictate your story from a legal pad. It was chaotic and scary, and it was a pressure like I had never really felt. The slot editor's job in a sports department was to sort of be the traffic cop for the whole department. And so I'd call into the office to check on my story, and I'd hear this incredibly calm and measured and reassuring voice amid all that madness. That was Bob Clancy. Clance, thank you for being here tonight, and thanks for giving me confidence at a time when I really needed it.
Okay, I saw the potential.
Matt Kramer helped me map out a journey for my career, and he helped to bring me back to Bristol and ESPN. He's an agent, which means he believes he's entitled to 10% of all the silverware from the place tonight. He's kind of a big deal now, but I was his first client. And there was a time that he represented only me and virtually every weekend weather anchor south of the Mason-Dixon line. But Matt has been an even better friend to me than he's been an agent. And as I said, for a very long time, I did not think that I fit at ESPN. And Matt was one of two people in particular who believed that I did and helped me get back here. And the other was Chris LaPlaca, who's the VP of Communications at ESPN. And Chris and I both went to St. Bonaventure University, although he is way, way older than me. I was Chris's intern a long time ago, one summer at ESPN, and he taught me about attention to detail, and he also taught me how to wear my tie straight. So I don't know if I got that tonight. But whatever honor that I might get in my career in at an award like an induction like this, none of it could compare to the pride and the love that I feel for my two children, Annie and Ben. She's a senior in high school. I said to somebody the other day, she went from 7 to 17 faster than she'll be 18 next week. They give me a lot of hope for the future. They're selfless, and they care about others. They care about their family. They care about strangers. And their mother and I could not be more proud of them. Now, this job that I have it can often be 24 hours, 7 days a week. There's big highs when you break a story, and there are big lows when you don't. And in my strange little world, it's often euphoria or despair. And you can often feel all of that inside the span of a few moments. But a household and a family cannot exist on that kind of a roller coaster. And my wife, Amy, does not allow it to. She doesn't get many vacations or quiet dinners or car rides that somehow don't get detoured to the side of the road as I pull over to report a story. We've been married for 24 years, and I know that for many of them, she has rightly felt at times like a single mother. But as much as I want to thank her for all the things that I know she has taken care of in my world, I want to thank her for an even longer list that I know exists. All the things that I don't know she took care of and handled. And in my career and in my job, I think she's caught her share of shrapnel at times. If you know Amy at all, you'd understand why she would be really confused about why the young kid across the street from us would walk out in the yard and see her and say out loud to her parents, "Hey, there's Mrs. Know-It-All." Amy rightly wondered, what could I have ever said or done to that kid that has made her parents, teach them to call me a know-it-all? And I said, well, honey, I think I know. They're only calling you that because of who you're married to, Mr. Know-It-All. Reggie Jackson was right, Amy. There should be a second Hall of Fame for the real Hall of Famers, and you deserve your whole separate wing. I love you. Thank you to everybody for a wonderful night. Appreciate it.